So my name is Eric Danielson. I'm with the Iowa College Access Network, and what we're going to do today is to go through with you with this FAFSA form, just as we had mentioned, step by step, showing you screenshots and pointing out some tips and hints to hopefully help you to be able to prepare and complete, I should say, this FAFSA form. Now, we're doing this in partnership with our partners here, Iowa College Aid, IASFA, the Iowa Association of Student Financial Administrators, and ICAN as well. At ICAN, if you would need help after tonight, you can go to our website to set up an appointment or give us a call, set up an appointment, or just ask a question, and we'll try to answer any questions that you have. But what we're going to do when I'm going through this form with you step by step tonight is we've actually got from the Iowa Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, folks that are volunteering to answer questions on the chat box for you from actual financial aid offices. So Janelle Martin from Buena Vista University, Sarah Freestone from Iowa State University, Melissa Mincy from DMAC, Shelly Adams from ISL Education Lending, and Tracy Pavon from Simpson College. So thank you all for being volunteers tonight and answering the questions on the chat box. So when you do have a question, right now, go ahead. If you've got any questions, we'll try to, they'll answer those for you. But throughout the presentation, if you've got questions, please let us know. But we are again utilizing that through the chat box. Whoops, I got a little touchy there on my slide. There we go. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, to get started tonight in going through this process step by step, to begin the FAFSA this year for 24-25, you are going to need to have what we call an FSA ID, Federal Student Aid ID. Another term you might start hearing in the future is going to be a studentaid.gov account, because studentaid.gov is where you would go online to register for these FSA IDs. Now, this year, everyone is going to need one to be able to access and do their part in the form. You might hear the term contributors this year a little bit more, a student contributor, and then a parent or parents that need to be contributors on the form. If there are multiple parents that go down on the FAFSA form, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. If there are multiple parents that are going to need to put information on the form, there is a possibility that each of them may need an FSA ID. If they filed joint taxes together in 2022, which is the tax information that we're going to use on this financial aid form tonight, then you wouldn't need you will only need one parent to get an FSA ID. But if there's more than one contributor on the form for 2022 and they did not file joint taxes during that year, then each parent would need an FSA ID as well as the student too. The ultimate way in being able to fill out this form is also that those FSA IDs are going to need to be verified or confirmed prior to accessing the form. Now, at one time, we thought it was going to be mandatory, and it actually isn't. But ultimately, to be able to fill it out, the best way would be to get FSA IDs. It may take up to 7 days. They say 1 to 3, and it's been a little bit quicker. I just worked with a gentleman yesterday. He had done his the day before, and it was verified already. So I think they're doing them a little bit quicker right now. But this is one reason why we want to see this verified ahead of time, done and verified ahead of time before filling out the form, is because to automatically bring your taxes over what they're calling a direct add exchange, that FSA ID needs to be verified with the Social Security Administration. Each time you log in with your FSA ID, there's going to be a multi-factor authentication requirement, either a 6-digit code being texted to you or emailed to you as well. But if you have not gotten FSA IDs already, student and parents, that would be something we would want you to do right away at studentaid.gov to be able to access your portion of the form. Now, parents without Social Security numbers, you're going to be able to apply for an FSA ID, and you can actually do that right now. Not many has been able to do it, but we've been told by the end of February, which we're at that point right now, or beginning of March, it is going to be easier for those parents without Social Security numbers to apply for an FSA ID. The contributors will try to have their FSA ID verified with the TransUnion. If not, they're going to be asked for documentation to verify that from Federal Student Aid. But it should be, and it's supposed to be, an easier process for those parents. So if there is a parent without a Social Security number, you're still going to need to get an FSA ID. It's supposed to be getting easier for you to be able to do that than when the FAFSA first launched here on December 31st. But there is no longer a manual process for signing a signature page. That was something that maybe some families have heard about in the past. That has been retired and is still not coming back. So every contributor is going to need to go to studentaid.gov, whether with the Social Security number or not, and register for an FSA ID. Any questions on FSA IDs? Again, please put those in the chat with our financial aid experts. Now, what we're going to do tonight is do a kind of given an experience if it's a dependent student that is going to be filling out a FAFSA form needing parent information as well. So this kind of says dependent student invites a parent. Really what it's going to show is the FAFSA form for 24-25 now is really broken up into parts. The student and the parents are kind of separated out doing their own sections of the student's FAFSA form. So we're going to begin as if the student was beginning filling out the FAFSA form and how it's going to look. So the first thing, studentaid.gov is where you're going to go to. It's going to look very something like this. And you could sign in right away. The student could sign in with their FSA ID right away, or just click on where it says start a new form. For 24-25, we click on starting a form, unless you've already started it, and then you can put edit existing form on there. But majority of you probably will be starting a new form. And then it's going to ask for the username and password to log in. If for some reason, again, you do not have one yet, you would be able to go up and click on the create the account and begin that. If for some reason you've forgotten a password, you can go in there and reset the password within here as well. But once you are able to actually put down the username and password and click log in, it will do a two-step verification for you at first, usually I have a text sent to the students and the parents when they're each logging in, but you can do email as well. Once you've entered that in, then eventually you're going to come to the part within the FAFSA where it's going to ask what your role is on here. And we're going to begin again as if we were starting with the student. So we're going to click on the student here, and then it goes through 4 videos. Now, generally we're not going to watch them tonight. That's when we're helping at ICAN. We feel we're the ones taking the place of the videos and getting out of the way, but certainly there is more information in there that you can do, what the FAFSA form is, and then again, who the contributors are that are going to need to be on the FAFSA form. I do want to reiterate about this one more time on there, or go into a little more depth, I should say, who is going to be a contributor, the parent contributor on a student's FAFSA form. I mean, if both the legal parents of the student are married, it's going to be both parents that are going to need to have their information on the form. If they filed a joint tax return in 2022, then only one of them is going to need to get an FSA ID. If the legal parents are unmarried but living together, we answer questions about both parents. But if they're not married, then each of them would need to get an FSA ID and fill out their parts separately as contributors. So again, this would be one example where the parents would not have filed a joint tax return that go on the FAFSA form because they're unmarried. So each of them would need to get an FSA ID at studentaid.gov. Excuse me. Now, if a parent is widowed or single, we're going to answer questions about just that one parent, unless if a widowed parent would be remarried as of the day that we're filling out this form today, then we would need to answer questions about that parent and step parent. Even if they weren't remarried in 2022, if they just got remarried yesterday and they're filling out a FAFSA for the student today, now we need that parent and step parent information for 2022. And if they just got married yesterday, that means they would not have filed a joint tax return in 2022. So each of them, that widowed parent and now step parent, would need to get FSA IDs to complete their part. Now, a big question that we always get with this is when parents are divorced or separated. If parents are divorced or separated, and it does not have to be legally, I still got that up here right now because at one time that's what we thought it was going to be. But if the parents are divorced or separated, living in separate residences, going through the process of going to get a divorce, then we answer only the question about the parent. that has provided the most financial support in the last 12 months for the student. If that would be mom and mom's not remarried, it's just mom's information that's going to go on this FAFSA form, and only mom is going to need an FSA ID. Now, if mom, though, would be remarried as of today, then we would have to answer questions about mom and step parent as well. And again, if mom has been remarried for quite a while and they filed joint taxes in 2022, then only one of them would need an FSA ID. If mom has it, just mom would need it. But if she just got remarried, they did not file joint taxes in 2022, her and her now new spouse, then both of them would need to get FSA IDs to complete their parts this year. Again, any questions on that, please ask in the chat box with our experts. After explaining that, the third video gets in kind of what to expect, going over it, and then after submitting the form, which those are some things we're going to be talking about tonight. The very first part, after you get by the videos, is it's going to show the student identity information, just double checking that information, not only their name, date of birth, social security number, address, and mobile phone number, but also their address. If any of that needs changed, you can't do this part within the form. You would actually need to go into a portion of the form that is in the that will be in the top right hand corner of that form. Let me try to go back to it. There we go. Where this FAFSA menu, you would need to go back to where it says settings and be able to make changes there. So the account settings is what you would need to go into to make any changes to any of this information, including address. Now, after that, if everything is okay, then you just click continue and move on. And the first question it's going to ask for is about the student's state of legal residence. If that is, for the majority of you watching today, that's going to be Iowa. And then they want to know the date the student became a legal resident. Many students here in Iowa were born in Iowa, so we've been putting the month and year that they've been born. But if you moved here at a different time, you would just put that month and year down. If you're not exactly 100% sure, try to come as close as possible. This question isn't something that has to get right down to the nitty-gritty on when that exact month and year was. A lot of times you're going to know the year, but might not know the exact month. That is not a problem. Try to come as close as you can. It's not like social security numbers and date of birth where we need to be exact. Next, we're going to be asked about providing consent, the student providing consent to have their taxes brought over directly from the IRS. Now, even if the student hasn't filed or did not file taxes in 2022, this is still something that they're going to need to hit approve on, and that approve on is on this page here. There's a lot of legalese that is there, but basically you've got to hit approve to do that. Even again, if the student didn't file taxes in 2022, you must hit approve to be able to get federal financial aid. If somebody declines it, you would not be eligible for federal financial aid. So after you hit approve, then next it's going to get into the student's personal circumstances, and we hit continue. Their marital status. Majority of students, if there's high school senior families on tonight, that's going to be single, never married is what they're going to continue. If something else, you would include that. But once you answer that question and hit continue, then their student college or career plans. What grade level they're going to be in college the next year. If again, many high school senior families, if you're on tonight, that's going to be first year, but second, third, undergraduate, junior, or senior year, going on to graduate school, just answer what that is. And then when the student begins 24-25, will they have their first bachelor's degree? If that's no, you would click on that and then hit continue. Next gets into their personal circumstances. These are really questions that are going to determine whether or not a student is dependent or independent from needing parent tax information on the form. So is the student currently serving on active duty in the armed forces for purpose of training? If they're a veteran, if the student has children or other people who live with them that will receive more than half their support from them between July 1 of 2024 and June 30th of 2025. will be the year. It's X'd out right now, but that's the year that's going to be included. At any time since the student turned 13, were they an orphan or a ward of the court or in foster care? If the student was legally emancipated or determined by a court, or in a legal guardianship determined by a court with someone besides a parent. If it's none of that apply, which for the majority of high school seniors that go right on to college and all their undergraduate work, that'll probably be that way. But if it is none, these apply, you would move on and hit continue. Now, if this, another question that determines whether or not they're dependent or not will be on at any time on or after July 1 of 2023. Was the student unaccompanied and homeless or self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? If that is no, we'll hit continue and move on. And then it'll ask about unusual circumstances. Do unusual circumstances prevent the student from contacting parents, or would that pose a risk? Now, if that is yes, then something that it is going to mention to the student to do is talk to the college directly if you feel it. It is some pretty extreme circumstances, and it has a few of those listed on there as examples. Our example tonight, we're going to say no and move on, but definitely want to mention if the student is in this situation and they've not been able to answer yes to any of the other questions that would make them an independent student, they need to talk to their college about that. Next, they might have some unusual circumstances where they can do that. But it is only the colleges that are empowered to make any type of professional judgments. And if a student is looking at more than one college and feels they have unusual circumstances, they would need to talk to each individual college on there. Another question it's going to ask is, are the student's parents unwilling to provide information, but the student doesn't have unusual circumstances from contacting parents? And are they just going to apply for a direct unsubsidized loan? We've had a few problems with students actually answering yes to this when they shouldn't have, and it's completed their form without asking for parent information. And right now, we're not able to make any corrections on FAFSAs because none of them for 24-25 have been processed yet. So make sure that you put no on this question here and hit continue to move on, because I don't think hardly anybody, not many, I should say, are going to be answering yes to this question. So make sure to answer no and then hit continue on. Now, again, we're doing a dependent student. If any student would be orphan or ward of the court after the age of 13 in a legal guardianship, they would be independent and not need parent information on the FAFSA form, and that would tell them differently. And if you have any questions on some of that, please ask it in the chat box. But for our example, we're going to say the student answered no to all of them. They're still dependent. And now we're being asked about parent information. If the parents are married to each other, if yes, and our example, we're going to utilize that. We're going to say yes. And it doesn't show it on these slides here initially. Or excuse me, I should say when parents are answered yes to, it will move on. If it says no, if you say no, I don't have those examples. But if parents aren't married to each other, the next thing it will ask if they're living together. If they're not living together, if that's no, then it's going to say, does one parent provide more than, have you designated one parent or know of one parent that provides more than more support in the last 12 months for you? And generally you'll say yes there. And then it'll ask, is that parent remarried? And then you would put yes or no down on there. And then it will come to this page for you. We answered yes right away. So right now on this page, this is the page to invite parent contributors to fill out the FAFSA form, to have an email sent to them. Now you will see on here that there are two parents that are listed. One of the first questions that I always ask families when I'm helping them and the parents are married to each other is, did you file joint taxes in 2022? If they filed joint taxes in 2022, then I'm going to ask which parent has the FSA ID. And if mom says I'm the one that has it, then I'm only going to put mom here for this parent. And I'm going to leave parent spouse information blank and hit continue. We've seen some glitches when we've included both parents, but not have needed both parents because they filed joint taxes on there. And so I'm only going to list the one parent that has the FSA ID if they file joint taxes. Now, if there are parents that did not, parent contributors, two of them, that did not file joint taxes, then you're going to need to put down both of them in this part, include them both to get emails being contributors on the form, because each of them are going to need to complete their own section. When there are two parents on the FAFSA, but they filed joint taxes in 2022, we only need to list the one down. And later on, when we're in the parent section at the very end, it'll ask for the other spouse's general information there. But since they filed joint taxes, all that tax information will just need to be brought electronically one time over with them. And so we'll only need to do that with the parent that has the FSA ID. Again, if I did not explain that as clearly as I should, and you've got a question on it, please ask. But here, we would just list down the one parent's information: first name, last name, date of birth, social security number, and email address. One problem that we have seen in this part, when a parent has an FSA ID already, is when we've listed the first name, last name, date of birth, and social security number, that has to match exactly with what that parent put for an FSA ID. If not, you'll get a message up at the top here stating, you might want to double check your information. It looks like this parent has an FSA ID, something like that, a little bit longer is what it'll say, a red warning sign. We have had to do, because sometimes families will say, no, that's the correct information. What we've had to do is actually, without jumping out of where we're at, we'll get in another browser, go to studentaid.gov and try to log in with that parent's FSA ID and go to the settings to double check to see what they put down for first name, last name, and date of birth. Occasionally, we've seen where date of births have been wrong, what they listed in their FSA ID. The Social Security was correct, so it still got verified, but they put down a wrong date of birth, and they needed to change that. So first name, last name, date of birth, and Social Security must match with what's in the FSA ID. And if you get an issue stating that it doesn't seem to be, go into studentaid.gov, log in with the parent FSA ID, check their settings, and see what they have listed in there. A lot of times there's something different there than what you put down on this part to invite the parent to get it sent off. If it does match though, and you hit continue, then what should happen, the email will have been sent to the parent, and now we move on with more student information, getting into the student demographics. We hit continue, and this is a part within the student demographics that you can answer or put down prefer not to answer, but we ask questions about students' gender. Then also if they're Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin, and then the student's race. And there's also subcategories within these after they click, if they do click on the student's race. We have seen a few glitches when you click on the subcategories. So when we're helping families, excuse me, we usually do not put the subcategories in. We would only click on these first boxes that are listed there. After we do the demographic part, then it's asking about their citizenship. If they are a U.S. citizen, we will put that. If they are an eligible non-citizen, so say the student is here, a refugee, for example, they've got a green card or a conditional green card with an alien registration number and a social security number, they may be an eligible non-citizen, and if they click on that, then they would put in their alien registration number as well. Now, still at, excuse me, still as of today, if a student is here that is not a citizen or an eligible non-citizen, DACA students would be one example of that. They would not be eligible for federal or state of Iowa aid. And honestly, here in at least in the state of Iowa, I don't know of any schools that are requiring non-U.S. citizens or eligible non-citizens to fill out a FAFSA form. So they would not need to complete that. I do want to mention, though, that if a student is a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen, they are eligible for federal aid or state of Iowa aid, no matter what the status of the parents are. They are eligible for that and can fill out the form. The parents, if they do not have Social Security numbers, would need to get an FSA ID and to be able to complete the form. And that's something that is supposed to be available to them coming up here the first half of March. The parents without Social Security numbers have not been able to complete a FAFSA form yet. Unfortunately, there has been a workaround to at least get it started for them, but not complete. But we're getting to the point now that I think most colleges would want students to wait if their parents haven't been able to fill it out because they don't have Social Security numbers yet. And they are supposed to be able to sometime the first half of March is what we've been told if they're in that situation. Now, after we answer then this question and hit continue, we're going to get into the parent's educational status. And what's actually asked here is a little bit different than what we had seen initially from federal student aid. So it's really going to ask on your screen when you do it now if neither parent completed college, or both attended but didn't complete, or one or more attended and completed college. So just putting down whatever the parent's educational status is, and then click continue. Was parent killed in the line of duty? If that was yes, then move on. Most that we have done so far, it's been no. If that's the case, click on that, then hit continue. And now we get back to students' high school, or get to students' high school completion status. Answer which question here. If they did earn or will earn a high school diploma, and hit continue, the next thing that we would go on to would be what high school. And you'd put the state, the city, the high school name, and once you find it, click on it, hit continue there. And confirming it, then it will show it one more time. And if that is the right one and you confirm it, do that and hit continue. Now we're going to get into the student's finances. So financial part, hit continue. And if the student did file taxes in 2022 and it was brought over electronically, then this is the next thing that's going to show up. And for the majority of students, that is the case. Now, if students do not fill out taxes, or did not fill out taxes in 2022, you're actually going to get a question, did you file or will file in 2022? And you'd put no down since you didn't. So if you did not, you're going to get that question. But students that did file taxes in 2022, the next thing it's going to ask them is if in 2022 they got any amount of college grants, scholarships, or AmeriCorps benefits that was reported to the IRS. And unless you're getting full ride and getting scholarship above and beyond what the college cost, you're not going to have that. And high school seniors wouldn't have it anyway because they wouldn't have been in college yet. So chances are that's going to be zero, as well as the foreign earned income exclusion, that being zero as well for almost all students on there. If they are zero, then you hit continue. And now it's going to get into students' assets. We're going to get into, as of today, what they have for cash savings and checking. Then as of today, current net worth of business or investment farm. In fact, these are actually now reversed, the business and farm and the investment one. You will see the investment question first and then the business or farm last. But when it's asked for current investments, that would be, excuse me, the net worth of or investments, stocks, CDs, bonds, UGMA accounts, that would be in the student's name. A lot of students don't have that, but some might. And if they do have a CD or a bond or something in their name, they would list that amount down on here for the assets and then click continue. We'll go a little more about assets when we get to the parent part here in just a bit. And then really one of the last things we'll need to do with the student information is select the colleges. We hit continue there and you'll be able to look up the colleges even by school name and doing a search, or if you do know the federal school code that they have, you'll be able to put those codes in that way too to get the colleges. Up to 20 now is what students can list. Since the FAFSA started later, we haven't seen, a lot of students have already narrowed down their search here in January, February, March. And so we haven't seen too many students that are doing 20. But when the FAFSA goes back to October 1 next year for the 25-26 form, I got a feeling we're going to see a few more students that are going to list down quite a few. And this was the first year where up to 20 could be listed for the colleges, number of colleges. After listing them all, we're going to hit continue. And now we're at the review page. And so you can go through anything that you would like to double check on this review page. Now, towards the bottom of the review page, there is going to be information about the parent sections. And occasionally I've seen people try to get in and fill out some of that, and it's caused some issues. Really, we just want to make sure to fill out for the student part when we start with them, filling out these personal identifiers, making sure that's their personal circumstances, demographics, financials, and colleges, and then hit continue, and let's sign this form for them. It will show them what contributors have been sent. Again, I would only send it if the parents are filed jointly in 2022, just send it to the one with the FSA ID that is on there. But if they didn't file joint and there's two parents, you will need to do both. But that is listed on here as well. And last thing then you'll do is you'll look over the signature part, making sure you're not in default of loans. There are things that are listed on here to just double check. But at the bottom, you'll click on the box, say you agree to the terms outlined above, that you are who you say you are. Click submit, and this is going to come up where your student section is complete. Now, once this student section done is complete, you should get an email on that. And when I'm helping students and families in my offices, when we see this part, what we do is we log out of the student section here, or I should say log out of the student's account, and we go back to the very beginning at studenta.gov, and we start logging in with the parent information. Now, what parents are going to get, though, just to show you, though, is an email on here. And the parents are getting the contributors, parent contributor, the one you listed. So if you just listed one down because parents filed a joint return, just the one is going to get it. And there's going to be a place on here saying you've been identified as a parent, and then a place to click on to go to studenta.gov to log in and begin the parent portion of the student's FAFSA form. Now, usually what I do is I don't get into the email with the parent when I'm helping them in the office. I'll just log out of the student, log in with the parent username and password on here, and we'll go to their dashboard, and they're going to have an activity that is in there. It'll say that they've been requested as a contributor for a FAFSA, and we'll instead of decline invitation or get started, it'll typically say accept invitation. We accept the invitation, and that gets us going into applying or putting down the parent information for the student's part of the FAFSA form. When we hit continue, as parents, you will also be onboarded as well. I'm going to go through these real quick, but you're going to see the same thing that the student did when you're filling it out, all the different videos. If you want to watch them, you're certainly more than welcome to do that. But then it's going to come to your parent identity information on here. Double check that to make sure everything looks good, including the address. If you need to make any changes, it's back in the settings first, not the actual form that you would need to go into. So your account settings to change any of this. Yesterday, I had someone, a parent that I've worked with before, and he got a new cell phone number. So we actually needed to, once we logged in and two-step verified him through his email address, we changed his cell phone number then and verified it in his account settings before we started the actual form. If everything looks good, though, finally we hit continue. Now it's the parents' time to give consent to have their taxes brought over electronically, and they hit approve. And all contributors, student and parents, must hit approve to have their taxes brought over electronically. Again, even if you didn't file, it's something that you still need to hit approve on to allow the IRS to see if there is anything on file. You must do that for the student to be eligible for federal aid to get that FAFSA done. So please, we want to encourage students and families not to decline it. If for some reason it was accidentally declined, you can go back in and approve later on. Once we hit approve, now we're getting into the parent demographic part of the form. If the parent's marital status that is on there. For our example, we're going to put married down and then click continue. And then parent's state of legal residence. Now, whichever parent has the FSA ID and we're in for that, that's the one we're answering it for. So we ask that parent, if you're a resident of Iowa, when did you become a legal resident of Iowa? A lot of times for the parents, it's when they were born as well. So they would put their month and year of their birth down. But if they did move at a different time, whatever that month and year was when they came to Iowa. We hit then continue. And now it's going to get into their financial information. First thing it's going to ask is about federal benefits received, if any of these were, and earned income tax credit. That would actually be question number 27 on their federal income taxes. So the 1040 that they have, look at line 27 if they're not sure if they received this at all, to see if they've got any dollar amount for this earned income credit. Federal housing assistance, free or reduced price school lunch. And this isn't just for parents. This would be if anyone in 2022 or 23 that is in their household would have received this. Anybody in their family, any of these benefits. Medicaid, refundable credit for coverage under qualified health plan, food stamps, SNAP, supplemental security income, TAMF, or WIC. If none apply, that's our head. Then we move on. If anybody is able to click on one or more of these, one or more, really it's a simplified needs test, and they're not going to be asked asset questions later on. But it would fall under in 22 or 23, did the parent or anyone in their family receive any of these benefits? For our example today, we're going to hit none apply and then hit continue. Next, it's going to ask about parents' filing status. Did or will the parents file a 22 joint tax return? And then we would click yes on that if that would be the case and hit continue. Another question it will ask is the parent's family size different from the number of individuals claimed on their 22 taxes? If no, you will just move on. If yes, then it's going to ask to put down, besides the parent, the other parent, and the student, any other children or dependents. On here, we listed one down. So one, and then hit continue. If it's not different, though, then move on. So a lot of you, it won't be different, but if it is, you are able to change then that number here, adding the number of children. And then it's also going to ask about the number in college. For our example here, we're just going to put one, the student that will be in college next year. But if you as parents have 2 or 3 that are going to be attending, go ahead and list those down. Unfortunately, excuse me, they're not going to be taken into account in the calculation to determine what they feel you could contribute as parents this upcoming year for 24-25, but it is still a question that's being asked on the FAFSA form. When you put that number in, whatever that is, then we click continue. And if for some reason your taxes are not able to be brought over directly from the IRS, and the majority of families, this is the case, but this is just an example to show you in case it is not. If it wasn't, then there will be some questions that will. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got that wrong. These questions are going to pop up no matter what. Anyway, I should have said that some of you may get asked some more questions about your actual taxes if it isn't able to be brought over electronically. We've had some rare cases where that's been the case. And so you may get asked about money earned from working, income tax paid, things directly off of your IRS tax return. But the majority of families, even ones so far that I've seen that had some identity theft in the past that couldn't use the old IRS Data Retrieval Tool, they have been able to have their taxes directly brought over and not been asked the tax questions. The only ones that still everybody, if you filed taxes, are going to be asked about, the earned income credit again. I should say occasionally that get asked the second time, put down no. But the amount of college grants or scholarships, AmeriCorps benefits, that was asked to the students as well. Now this is being asked to the parents. That and the foreign earned income exclusion, those are questions that are going to be asked to each of you if you filed taxes on the form. And a lot of times, again, those last two, they're going to be 0. If that is the case, put 0 down and hit continue. Then we're going to get into a question about child support received. If that's 0, you put it down, but it would be child support received in 2023. So if any of you are filling this out and received any child support for all children, you would put down the last complete calendar year. Since we're here now in 2024, that's going to be the 2023 year, any child support received. And then the parent asset question. It's going to ask you as parents, what your cash savings and checking in as of today. If you have any current net worth of business or investment farm value or net worth of investments. And just to let you know a little bit more information about this year there is no longer any exclusion for business and farm. So when they're wanting to know what the net worth is, they're looking at the value minus debt against that business or farm if you would have something like that. And when we're talking about current value, it's fair market value of land, building, machinery, equipment, inventory, all of that. Take that, subtract off any debt for that specific business or farm, those specific things, not credit card debt or car loan debt. That isn't looked at. Other debt, only debt against those investments or business and farm that you're doing on there. Got to say, sometimes it can be, hard for some families to come up with that question. If any of you have any of this, please ask it in the chat box. And certainly at ICAN, even later on, we're more than happy to try to help you through that. But in some way, coming up with, how many acres do you have? Let's get a value for the county you live in, what that is per acre, what it's worth. Do you still have any debt against it? About the land, building, machinery. Now, when we talk about land and building machinery, we're not going to count the principal residence that you live in if something is on. That is not going to be included as an investment all, the home that you live in, if you own that. But looking at these other things, this is what would be included for business and farm. Now, the question about investments, the investments would be included, would be not the home that you live in, but other real estates like rental properties. We would be looking at the net worth, value minus debt of those. Trust funds, even if you can't touch them right away, trust funds would be counted on the form. Money market, mutual, CDs, UTMA accounts would also be something included. I should mention at this time with UTMA and UTMAs, and then 529 plans at the very bottom. Those are accounts that are included, but when we have a student and parent, which side do they go on? UGMA and UTMAs, the way that they're set up, they would go on the student side. They are considered the student investment, even if they can't touch it right away. The way they're set up, they're still considered the owner of those accounts. 529 plans, the students are the beneficiary. So if you're a parent, you're the account owner and the student's the beneficiary, it goes on your side. And this year, you would only count a 529 plan for the student you're filling the form out for. That is different than past years. You used to have to count them all for any where you're the account owner as the parent. Now you're only going to put down the 529 plan for the student that you're filling the form out for if you're the account owner. Now, another thing I want to address with 529 plans, though, is if a student is a beneficiary on, say, a grandparent or an aunt or uncle, somebody else has a 529 plan for them. The grandparent, aunt, or uncle are the account owners. And there's nowhere here on the form we have to count grandparent or aunt or uncle's assets. So those would be 529 plans that
Eric, you cut out. Are you having technical difficulties?
I am back now. I'm sorry I lost the internet, so I think hopefully you all can see me, and I will start sharing my screen. And for those that stuck around, I will finish up the program here on there. Thank you, and thanks Shelly for texting me on there. I don't know what happened with the internet computer glitch there, but let's go ahead and get back to finishing up. And again, if you've got more questions, please put those in the chat for us. With investments, I think where I was talking about was 529 plans. If an aunt or uncle, grandparent has them in their name for a student, they're the account owner the way it's set up. Even though student's a beneficiary, we do not have to count those down on the FAFSA form as an investment there for the student, or even on the parent side for those. Again, if you've got any other investment questions on what to include, please put those down. But want to point out investments not to be counted. The home that you live in, kind of already mentioned that, but retirement accounts as well. We will not count 401k, pensions, annuities, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, IPERs, that is not counted. We are no longer even counting your contribution to those retirement accounts for the tax year that's being asked about. That's one thing that has been taken out. So really now we can finally say there's nowhere here on the FAFSA form where any of your retirement money is going to be looked at. So you will not need to count that at all, any retirement on the FAFSA form when it asks for current investments. So sometimes for many families, the home that they live in retirement is the only investments they have besides their checking and savings back on that form. And if that's all you do have to need to list down, that's fine. You would just include the checking and savings part then on there. Now, after you list the checking and savings, business, farm, investments, the next thing that we need to do is put in the other parent's general information, their first name, last name, date of birth, social security number, and email address that is on there. So as I had mentioned earlier, when we're inviting a two-parent household and they file joint taxes, only invite the one with the FSA ID. Now we're getting to the part towards the end here in the parent information where we're going to be sending or putting in the other parent's general information in here. So double check to make sure that that is all good. If that parent happens to have an FSA ID though already, just like what I mentioned with the other parent, whatever the FSA ID is that they registered, if they have one, this other parent, their first name, last name, date of birth, social security number must match to be able to move on, or you could get an error message for that. And again, this is a part where we've seen sometimes to where they think that they're putting in the right information, but when we log in to this parent's FSA ID and look in their settings, they might have had a date of birth wrong, different first name, last name that they originally had put in to get their FSA ID, and so this needs to match with whatever is included in their FSA ID that they have. Email address doesn't, but the first name, last name, date of birth, social security number must match. And now we're almost at the part where the parents can sign and do it over. You can review anything that you want to go through on there, but if everything looks good and we hit continue, then that parent will hit sign and submit. And what will come up after the parent clicks on the box and hits sign and submit is a congratulations stating the FAFSA is complete for the student. For a FAFSA form to be complete, both the student and all the parent contributors that need to be included on the form must have their part done, and that makes it totally complete, and that's the date that you end up submitting the form. And again, you'll get this congratulations, as well as the student should get an email, kind of a confirmation page email similar to this, stating that their FAFSA has been done. So that is the goal, to have that FAFSA form done like this and completed, and getting that message that is on there. What's going to happen next is eventually the form will be processed, and then the schools that you listed down will end up getting the results. Now, let me skip ahead here a little bit. Before we end the FAFSA webinar tonight, I want to make a last minute call, because really that's most of the slides that I wanted to share with you and show you how to fill the form. But I want to put out a last minute call for any other questions that you might have to put those in the chat box here. And while my financial aid professionals from IASFA, who I want to thank for being here tonight, as well as Iowa College Aid, and that being a partner within our FAFSA Step-by-Step webinars for this year. I want to mention to all of you that about kind of what's going to come up next. And there have been, first of all, there have been no 24-25 FAFSAs that have been processed yet. None. We thought it was going to start at the end of January or February, but just a few weeks ago, we all in the financial aid community got an email stating that no FAFSAs were going to be processed until sometime starting the first half of March. Well, what that means is, a lot of times to us, that means first half of March, probably be March 14 or 15 is when they will begin. We'll see. But first half of March is when it's supposed to start processing. Now, they're not all going to be processed all at once. So there is a chance right now that some of you that are doing FAFSAs right now and getting submitted tonight, tomorrow, may not have your FAFSA processed till even getting into April at that time. And that is if they actually do start processing the FAFSAs the first half of March on there. We're hoping that's the case. We're trying to be positive about it. Heard some rumors that it may not start exactly then, but hopefully we're still going to try to be positive that it will be. But this is, with these not being processed, it probably more likely in batches and starting till then, it could get into April. Whenever it is processed, eventually then the colleges will get the results. And if they need anything else from you as a family, they'll let you know. But they will eventually come up with financial aid offers, listing everything you qualify for, any scholarships, grants, loans, work study, whatever that might be from the federal, the state, or the college themselves. But that is something that hasn't been started yet like it normally would, because no 24, 25 FAFSAs have been processed yet. So wanted to let you know that as a family, and also let you know is once you submit in a form, if later on you need to add a college or you think you made a mistake and need to make a change, that is something you can do, but not until the FAFSA form is processed. So if you submit one tonight, you could see your FAFSA in review, is what it'll say, until it's processed. You could see that happening still going into even April. And eventually, once it is processed, if you need to add a school or make corrections, you can do it at that time. But if not, colleges that you listed will get the results, come up with those financial aid offers, but they may not happen until sometime in April or even into May. So we are definitely behind in a normal process for a normal year, and just wanted to make sure to let you know that. And we're still at ICAN and the colleges and universities, we're still waiting to hear of things as we go along. That is the latest message, but certainly I don't want to say anything this year for 24-25 FAFSA is etched in stone. And we are all trying to have some patience and roll with the punches as we go along and learn new information. All right, I think that's all I really wanted to share, especially before my computer internet goes down again. So again, sorry about that brief pause, and thank you for the ones that stuck around. And again, I want to really thank my my financial aid colleagues here for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time to answer the questions in the chat box to the students and families. If there are just one more call out for any last minute questions on here. And not seeing any that are on here going through the chat, I am going to end the webinar. The last thing though is if anything does come up, whether you're watching this live or you're watching a recording of it, then and have questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at icansucceed.org. To set up an appointment or call us for an appointment, or if you have questions, we'll certainly try to answer any questions that you have. Again, if you want help with filling out the FAFSA form, that's something we can help you out with as well, either by Zoom or in person at one of our locations at ICAN as well. So that would be great. More than happy to be able to help you out with that. Right. Just seeing one more question that was being answered in the chat box. Just to remind everyone, it was a question about child support. Child support is included on the page with the assets. And so that is where any child support received in 2023, you would include it with that question. It'll be, though, on the same page as the asset questions when they're asked. So if you do make a mistake right now, if you think you made a mistake, if you submitted it already, you are going to have to wait until it's processed, and none have been processed yet. So we're hoping by mid-March is when that's going to start. But for some families that maybe have done it here in February or that, there is a chance that not all of them could be processed in March. Some might even go into April. And so whenever it is corrected for you, whether March or April, that's when you can make corrections on there if you've already submitted your part of the form. Great. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar now. And again, if you've got more questions later on, for those that have attended, please contact us at ICAN. But we thank you very much, whether it was watching it live or seeing this as a recording. Thanks for taking the time to do this. And again, feel free to contact us, the colleges and universities you're talking with, if you have questions. Thank you.